Hi, it's Luke here from UV Guard, and I'm here to show you how to install the UV Guard S series and the X series. So before you even think about installing your UV system, you need to have your manual in front of you. Now this can be downloaded using the QR code at the front of the UV reactor, on our website, or there may be a physical copy within your box. Now the S series and the X series can be installed either horizontally or vertically. Some of the main things to consider when installing your UV system is the positioning of the inlet and outlets once it's installed. Now the recommended position for these is inlet at the bottom, outlet at the top. This is to prevent any air gap within the chamber causing overheating issues. You also need to consider the weight of the UV chamber once it's full of water. The framing or support that you're using to mount the UV chambers on must be able to withstand the weight. When you're connecting to your inlet and outlets, it's always best to use either a stainless steel pipe, HDPE pipework, schedule 80 PVC, but never schedule 40 white PVC. This is because the UV radiation can degrade the white plastic pipework. So you've got your UV chambers mounted. The next step is to isolate the water. Make sure no water can pass through the UV system. We can then begin to install the quartz thimble or sleeve. Before installing the quartz sleeve, inspect it for marks, and it's always best to give it a quick clean with a provided alcohol wipe. So when we're installing the quartz into the S series, the O-ring must be lubricated with a silicone-based lubricant. It is then placed into the sealing nut, into a designated groove. You must wear powder-free nitrile gloves or cotton gloves when handling the quartz thimble and the UV lamp. This is to prevent any fingerprints from affecting the performance of your UV system. Take the quartz sleeve and feed the open end through the O-ring within the sealing nut. It should slide through quite easily. Begin feeding the domed end of the quartz thimble through your UV reactor. You should hit a stopping plate down the end of the UV reactor. We need to try and locate a hole that's positioned in the middle of it. Carefully move the quartz thimble up until you locate that hole. Push it in until the sealing nut meets the thread and begin to screw the sealing nut onto the UV reactor. Once you can feel some tension, tighten 1/4 of a turn again. And now we're ready for testing the seal. Once the quartz sleeve is installed, it's now time to test that seal. Don't install the UV lamp yet. Apply operating pressure through the UV chamber and allow it to sit there for 15 minutes at that pressure. Shine a torch through the end of the sealing nut and make sure there are no leaks occurring. If there are leaks, slowly tighten the sealing nut until the leak stops. Now when installing the quartz on the X series, the seal is slightly different. The seal consists of 2 O-rings and a stainless steel compression ring. Now as before with the S series, apply some food grade silicone lubricant to each of the O-rings. Feed O-ring number 1 over the open end of the quartz thimble until it's about 1 inch from the open end. Then pass the stainless steel compression ring over that, and then the final O-ring over the compression ring. Begin to feed the domed end of the quartz sleeve into the X series UV chamber. The domed end needs to pass through 2 baffles. One baffle located at the start of the UV chamber and one baffle located at the end of the UV chamber. Be careful when feeding the quartz sleeve through these baffle plates. Once you can feel the compression of a spring at the far end of the UV chamber on the quartz sleeve, you can then start to screw on the sealing nut. Carefully feed the sealing nut over the open end of the quartz sleeve. Push it in and start to screw the sealing nut in to the UV chamber. Again, once you feel resistance, do another quarter of a turn, and now you're ready to pressure test. Once the quartz sleeves are installed in the S series and the X series, before installing the lamp, we need to check the seals. The way we do this is by pressurizing the system with the operating pressure for 15 minutes. Once 15 minutes is up, we need to check through the open ends of the sealing nuts if there's any water. If there is water, we tighten up the sealing nut slightly and carefully until the leak stops. We're now ready to install the UV lamp. Before installing the UV lamp, check the clear quartz for any marks and wipe these off with the provided alcohol wipes. Make sure that the two white wires are facing at the bottom. Slowly insert it into the UV chamber and into the quartz sleeve. Leave the ceramic end of the UV lamp protruding out of the UV chamber. Take a gasket, place the lamp lead through it, and you'll notice there are 3 holes. Now these 3 holes must line up with the end cap. Whilst holding the ceramic end of the UV lamp, begin to attach the UV lamp connector. Place one of the provided screws through one of the holes on the end cap, and also pass this through one of the holes on the gasket. Position the earth lead so it's at the bottom. Find a hole on the end of the sealing nut and begin to screw in to attach the end cap. Screw in the remaining 2 screws. Fix the earth cable onto the underside of the UV chamber. Once that's complete, we can apply power to the UV system.